Everyone. Um, Good to see a few familiar faces, but a lot of new ones. I am Eva Branson. I work in the Governor's Office of Federal Funds and Strategic Initiatives as the local government federal funding advisor. My position is a relatively new position. We created it back in November, and so my background is actually not in federal funds, but in local emergency management. So if there's any emergency management people out here, I relate to that. Um, Essentially, my job is to help local governments across the state uh, secure and maintain their federal funds. So I work only with direct federal funding. So anything that goes through a state agency and then is distributed to local governments, I do not work with. But with that said, then I am connected to a lot of the state agencies. So I'm happy to be kind of a pass through for you if there is a state agency funding source that you're interested in. So my job is broadly split up into three parts, I would say. And PPACG's region is lucky that you guys get to keep Karen until September. She's the RGN that will stay on the longest. But for a lot of the other regions across the state, then they are losing their grant navigator this year. And that's because the grant navigator program was originally created for IIJA funds. So that was the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed under the Biden administration. And those funds are running out, or the funding opportunities are going to be posted for the last time starting in September of this year. So with that, then the Grant Navigator program is kind of coming to a close. Like I said, Karen will be here until September. So you guys have a unique situation there, but I'm happy to work with Karen on this piece. I certainly won't be taking it over for her because she's doing such a great job. But essentially matching the local project ideas that you all have to federal funding sources. I won't go into super many funding sources today just for the sake of time, but I will say I heard water meter replacement somewhere. There is a Bureau of Reclamation grant called the Small Scale Water Efficiency Program that's open right now. And depending on how many water meters we're talking about, then that could be a funding source for that. Also, as I'm sure a lot of you have experienced with federal funds or communities around you that have federal funds, the federal funding landscape is a little bit tricky right now. There are some disruption to federal funding opportunities just with the administration change and changes in administration priorities. And so part of my job is to help you strategize as you navigate those changes and make sure that we're seeking funding in a strategic way that advances not only the needs that we have right now, but also sets us up for success in the future. The second part of this is technical assistance. So I want to be clear and say that I can't do any grant management for local governments because of course it's your grants. But I'll do everything except for managing the grant for you. So I'm happy to provide assistance in any way that I can with your federal grants that you already have secured. So whether that's a change to your federal grant, a change in the terms and conditions if you're still in contracting, if there's a funding termination or clawbacks or compliance issues, either I will help you directly or I can refer you to some resources that may be able to help. And then again, this whole strategizing in terms of what funds you already have and what can those set you up for in the future in terms of federal funds. And then also I'll do my best to talk about state funding opportunities as well as I know about them. The third part of my job, and this is the part that has really filled up the majority of my time for the last few months, I call it strategic advocacy, but basically that's just a fancy way of saying program development and program design. So we have a lot of assistance programs, including the RGN program, including the grant writing program, and then DOLA also has the LOMA program that we also assist with. But essentially, with these last few months of IIJA, we have a cash fund at the state that funds all of these programs, and there's still some money left in that fund. So my job is also to figure out how we can adjust some of the programs that we already have, and then also build new programs to be responsive to local needs in these last, I guess now it's 4 months, that's crazy, of IIJA. So I just wanted to tease, we're not quite done with the program yet, but the local legal support initiative, it's called. I was told that the governor does not like the word program, so now it's called initiative. But that will be an initiative that's launching in mid-May, and that'll be a program that, see, it's still in my head, it's still a program. Essentially, it'll provide free legal services to local governments that are experiencing those federal funding disruptions. And it doesn't have to be a federal funding termination or a clawback. It can also be like if you're having trouble going through the terms and conditions of your grant agreement and you want some help figuring out if there's any kind of clashes with your local policies, or if there's executive order references that you want kind of hashed out a little bit more, that's something that that initiative will be able to help with. And so it won't be the state that'll be providing that assistance. It'll be a legal service provider. And we have selected the provider, but we're just not through contracting yet, so I can't say who it is. But I think it'll be a name that a lot of you know and have worked with before. And then just to wrap up, I wanted to just make you aware of these resources that we still have for the IIJA program. So even though it's wrapping up in September of this year, there's still quite a few IIJA programs coming out. A lot of NOFOs that are open right now, including the water meter one, the Water Smart, Safe Streets and Roads for All, just to name a few. And so we have this grant writing and technical assistance program. I know some of the local governments within this region have already used it, which is great, but we do still have funding for that. So local governments, special districts, or federally recognized tribes are eligible to apply for grant writing support. And so that's especially for the smaller communities that don't have in-house resources to be writing grants. So you can apply for either a full write, or a co-write, or an independent review, which is where you write your own application and then we hire a consultant to go through it for you and make sure that it's as responsive as possible to the federal notice of funding opportunity. And so that will be wrapping up at the end of this year, but that is still something that's available to you. And not to keep mentioning the Water Smart grant, but it's eligible in case that's of interest. Todd touched on this, but we also have the local match assistance program that's administered by DOLA. The budget is actually 10 million, but since sometimes we grant funds and then the local government doesn't get the federal award, then they return funds to the pool. So we're actually able to over obligate the fund a little bit. I think there's about $2 million left in the fund as we speak right now. But this is non-federal matching dollars for any direct federal programs that are through or authorized through IIJA. And it can be a little bit challenging to figure out whether a program is authorized by IIJA or another statute. So you can either look in the NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and it should say what authorized the specific funding opportunity, or else you can reach out to me and I'm happy to help you sort through it. So this is just kind of my landing page. I do have some business cards with me today in case anyone wants to chat in the break. But essentially, I am here to talk to you about anything federal funding related, how to navigate changes to federal programs or to your grant, and then also to hear from you about what the state can do to better support you as you pursue federal funds. So that strategic advocacy piece only works if I know what the needs are at a local level, and I have my own ideas about what they are, but they're not as qualified as if they came from you. So please reach out to me and let me know if you have any ideas that you think are not met by the current programs, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. And then, of course, if I don't have the answer, I'll find someone who does. That's especially on the state funding piece. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
So Eva, I'm just curious, after the IIJA and I think it's the IRA, those funding sources dry up.
Yeah.
Will the grant writing technical support still continue in the governor's office, or is it only for those statutes?
It's only for those statutes. So the program ends at the end of 2026. I'm not quite sure why the cutoff date is a little bit after IIJA runs out, but it is. So that will end at the end of this year. My position ends in the middle of next year, which is when the state's cash fund attached to the IIJA funding sources ends. So I'll be here for longer than the funding opportunities are, and hopefully somebody, a new governor, will extend my position. But yeah, that's the plan for now. Awesome. Thank you.